Hey everybody, this is Brad from Johnson Small Engines, better known as the One-Hand Mechanic. If I can do it, you can too. Today we have here a John Deere S170. This is a 2023 version. It has the new style green deck, and I should just say it has a new green deck because the mower decks are basically the same. They haven't changed a whole lot other than the color. This is about putting a couple upgrades on this thing, and the first one I can say is all the S100 series that has the easy change oil filter, not a good idea whatsoever. I thought they were going to stop doing this, but obviously there's a lot of people, I guess, that still want it. This oil filter only holds about 3/4 of a quart of oil, so when you swap the new one out, it does not change any oil, just what's in that oil filter. So you still have about 1.5 quarts of oil still in the engine. I will put in the link in the description below, like I said, the how to replace this whole system. It comes as a kit, and I will also show you up on the bench what is included in that kit in this video. Okay, so the second upgrade, which we're going to do today, is the front wheel bearings on the S100 series. I think all of them. There's wheel bushings in these rims, and we're going to put wheel bearings in them. Okay, so let's go over to the bench and I'm going to show you the tools that we need today, plus all the parts that are needed. Okay, so starting from left to right, to get the caps off the wheel, you may, depending on how cold it is outside, the caps do get a little bit hard, the dust caps for the front wheels. I use a heat gun, hair dryer will work too. We have a large hammer. This is a homemade punch that I made to take the bushings out of the wheels. This is a tool that I take the cap off with. It's just like a hook. It helps me out. Slot head screwdriver. Now there's a couple different ways you can go with the front wheel bearings. They do sell a kit, and I'll put the link in the description. Now this is if you need the caps, and they also give you washers and all the extra stuff that you may or may not need. Now if you just have a brand new machine and you just want to get the bearings, this just has 4 bearings in it. These bearings, I have bought a lot of these bearings and they're all pretty much the same. They all work very well. Once you go to the roller bearings, and let me just show you here, these are the bushings. These are steel, all right, and they wear on the axle extremely quickly. All right, so if you don't keep them greased, which means depending on how many hours you use your machine, if you don't grease your machine, you know, a couple times a season, or depending on, like I said, the yard property and how long, the grease just gets pushed out. You're wearing metal on the shaft, and these just wear out quickly. I'm not sure why they can't upgrade to these bearings on the, at the factory, but these are roller bearings, and once you put these in, hopefully you'll be good, for a very long time. You pump some grease into the hub and you're good to go. Now this is the kit for the oil filter. I'll put the link in the description below so you can go ahead and see this, but John Deere puts a kit out. It gives you everything you need to change it back to a normal oil filter, which is going to be less money. That oil filter is $50 plus, depending on where you live, plus or minus. I think it's $50 or more. This is a 4-inch drain tube, which is going to be put on the air side. Like I said, the link's in the description, a video on how to do it, and yeah, I would highly recommend getting it done. And then we have your grease gun just to fill up the hub when you're done, and that'll keep the moisture out of the hubs, and it won't ruin your wheel bearings once you put the new wheel bearings in. Okay, and then the last thing you need is a floor jack or some kind of way to get the front wheels up. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take the dust cap off before I jack up the front end. And basically the dust caps are rubber, and sometimes they are very pliable and sometimes they're not, depending on temperature and age. So my little hook here, if you're not careful, you don't want to poke them, but this is pretty pliable. This is pretty much a brand new machine. If your cap is extremely hard, you can buy them at the local dealership, or if you buy the kit with the caps, and I'll put that in the link, that would work too. But using a hair dryer or heat gun, you can also heat them up and they'll come right on or off. Now you have a C-clip in here, and if your wheels are properly greased, it should be a mess. Now this tractor here only has 15 hours on it, and I'm going to go ahead and jack it up just so we can see the wobble. Now where I jack these up, the point that I jack them up at is right underneath where your front hanger is for your mower deck. There's a bracket right here, and this bracket right here is a great spot to jack it up. And you just have to get your front wheels off the ground just a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to show you the wobble right there. I don't know if this is going to pick it up on the camera or not, but for having 15 hours on the machine, we're already starting to wobble. That is, that's not good. Hopefully the axle is not already worn, but we're going to see. So then we got to take the clip off. Okay, so you have to find the slot in the clip, and then you can get just a regular flathead screwdriver in there, and just be careful. Sometimes they'll shoot out at you. And there's the clip. All right, now the kits do come with the clips, but I'll reuse these clips. I like those clips. Now there's a washer. There's always a big washer on the front here. And then you pull the wheel off. Now sometimes, okay, this one had it. Sometimes there's a washer, and this is a pretty big washer. The big washer will stick to the rim, and then you have to put it back on the axle here. Now this is very greased up. What I'm gonna do is get a paper towel, try to clean it up a little bit. Okay, so what happens on these is the metal bushing will wear underneath here. I'm gonna try to get you in here on the picture, but it always happens on the bottom. That's where the big wear mark is, right here. I'm not sure if you can see that or not, but that is definitely a ridge starting already. And it only has 15 hours on it. Wow, and it was even greased. So that was the wobble that we saw. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna pop these bearings out. Okay, so I have the new bearings here, and here are two of the older style bushings that go in the rims. Let me just put one here. I'm just gonna see the wobble. I mean, it doesn't look like a lot, but when you get the wheel on there, it is. And I push it back. Yeah, it definitely has some wobble on there. I'm very surprised. Okay, so I'm gonna use my homemade punch, and I'm just basically putting it into the rim center, and I'm trying to find the ridge for the other side, because what I'm looking for is I'm gonna hit this out, so I have to find that ridge. And give it a couple of whacks. Now this is a very, very messy thing to do. Here's our first bushing. Okay. Now I'm gonna go ahead and put one of these bearings in. I did forget one tool. You need I use a socket. What you have to do is the socket has to get pushed on the outside of the bearing so you don't ruin the bearing. You do not want to hit the center of this bearing because there's roller bearings in there and you can crush them and then they won't work properly. So once you have it set as straight in as you can, I usually tap them a little bit with just a hammer just to get them set up on the outside of the rim. That gets them seated, and then you're just going to tap it in. And once this actually seats, you'll hear it go thunk. You'll hear that metal against metal. I think that was very close. There it is. All right, so that's our first one, and I'm going to use this bearing as a guide to help me get in there, and it doesn't hurt this side as long as you're not pressing hard against it. I just need to hit the other ridge. I'll pop that one out here. And put the other on this side. I'm just going to tap it lightly on the outside just to get it to go straight. And then 1-inch socket gets on the outside. One more time. I think we already hit the rim. Yeah, we're good. And just make sure there's no gap. Now remember, grease fitting goes on the inside and your valve stem goes on the outside. So when you put your wheel back on again, now yes, there's a little bit of wear on this shaft, but it's not gonna hurt anything. Slide that on, and it's much better. At least I think it's better. And then now you have roller bearings. And I would highly suggest greasing the inside. Greasing is filled up with grease, so that'll allow no moisture to get in the hub, and it'll also protect those bearings. And yes, I hear a lot of people saying about the sealed bearings versus non-sealed bearings, but trust me, the bearings will last a lot longer if there's grease behind them. I also forgot one other tool, and that would be a pair of pliers to clip that in. Okay, so just go ahead and, oops. Go ahead and clip that on. Actually, it's so greasy. Make sure that that clip goes all the way down into the slot. Make sure it will not fall off. It's very important to get that clip to go down into that slot. All right, it's very tight now. We're gonna go ahead and put some grease in it. And I usually pump this up until I feel the grease gun get a little stiff. And once that happens, that hub should be filled. And a lot of people out there who wash their tractors, definitely grease your hubs because you don't want water getting in the hubs. It will seep into those bearings and it will ruin them. Oh, there it is coming out the side. All right, so we're good. And yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and do the other side off camera. I'm gonna go ahead and put the dust cap back on, and this one's pretty pliable. So we're gonna go ahead and pop that on there. I usually clean this up with a little degreaser and get that all cleaned up. So that pretty much sums it up for upgrades that you should definitely do. Definitely get rid of that quick change oil filter, or the engine probably will not last as long as it can. If you do the wheel bearings before it wears out, you know, great. If you need to, I do have a how to replace those spindles on the John Deere. It may apply to a lot of different tractors out there. I'll also put that in the link in the description below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe, share my channel with your friends, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.